I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic, and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans.
And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field.
Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
Hey guys, welcome to post-game here, late night at Hilton Coliseum. Double overtime. Iowa State loses to BYU 88-85. Break it all down for you. First and foremost, everybody get home safe. If you're watching this on the way home, weather is rolling in. Probably the worst night of the year to go to double overtime as far as that goes, so want everybody to be careful. We are presented by our friends at Channel Seed, as always. Raymond James, financial advisors, Clay and Chase Natuzel, and my friends at Keene as well. All right, man, there's so much to dissect here. Be brutally honest with you, I'm not going to read comments tonight because I need to get home to my kids. My wife is on a trip in Las Vegas for work. I'm single dadding it with sitters, and I got to get home. So, listen, we'll start at the beginning. I thought Iowa State lost this game in the first 10 minutes, which might sound weird considering that was when Iowa State consistently led the game. But Iowa State had forced, I think it was like 12 BYU turnovers in the first 8-9 minutes of the game, and you look up at the scoreboard and Iowa State's up by like 3. The Cyclones were 20% from the field. They weren't turning the ball over that much on their own, but they just couldn't. They could not extend that lead. And BYU at that point, you knew at some point BYU was going to get going offensively because they're too good of an offensive team, and they did. And they go on a 16-2 run. Iowa State goes to halftime, down 9, come out. BYU hits a couple of threes. So then the Hilton Magic thing gets going. But instead of putting them down when they couldn't make a shot and they were just turning the ball over, a lot of dead ball turnovers, not a ton of live ball turnovers during that stretch for Iowa State. Instead of doing that, then you're the one that has to extend all the energy to make the comeback. And you're the ones who are reeling. And that's what happened to Iowa State tonight. They ultimately had a ton of opportunities to win that basketball game. From, you know, the Gilbert technical loomed incredibly large, right? Go to overtime, you know, that was a 2-point swing. You look at the end of regulation, Jefferson kind of missed the bunny. He goes to the free throw line, makes the 2. Would have had an opportunity to win it for Iowa State. And frankly, Iowa State had some really, really bad half-court sets there, out of timeouts, really throughout the end of regulation and overtime. You kept thinking, at least I did, watching the basketball game, if Iowa State's going to win this, they're going to need to do it in transition, because that was where the Cyclones really made their hay. Let me give you the stat on that as far as points off of turnovers. Yeah, 34-17. So that's where Iowa State got theirs. But really a pitiful display of rebounding tonight for the Cyclones. They're out-rebounded 52-24. And again, like that's in double overtime. Let me pull up the overtime statistics because it felt like BYU just had a ton of offensive rebounds in overtime. Let's see. Now 4. So out-rebounded Iowa State 4-0. They didn't have any second-chance points, I guess, in overtime. Let's look in the second half at that one, see if it affirmed. It wasn't too much, okay? They got 7 offensive rebounds, but it only resulted in 3 points. So maybe that was just something that seemed bigger while we were watching it. But still, let's look at the offensive rebound stat total for the game. BYU got 17 of them. Iowa State only got 6. They're outscored on second chance points by 5. So it's not as staggering as I thought it was going to be when I was watching it, but nonetheless, you know, you guys know, if you listen to me, I thought this was going to be a really tough game for Iowa State. I didn't like the matchup. BYU now has won 7 in a row. They're the hottest team in the Big 12. The thing that sucks about this is you just go to double overtime. Now you got to go on a road trip to Kansas State, and you're more than likely not going to have the double bye in the Big 12 tournament. Probably going to have to play on Wednesday now. And I just don't want this team playing more basketball than it needs to. This isn't set up well. Not throwing in the towel. Again, I think BYU is playing really, really good basketball. But I'm more worried about Iowa State here at this point. And I just don't want them playing more games than they have to at this point. And it would have just, you wanted to string a couple together. Sure, they could go win in Manhattan on Saturday, but it's like you wanted to capture. Here's the thing, though. In that first 10 minutes of the game, I didn't felt like Iowa State played poorly offensively. They just weren't hitting shots. They were really good, locked in defensively during that time. Kind of lost their mind there. I felt like the middle 20 minutes of the game, they were not good defensively. BYU got a ton of open looks. I also give a lot of credit to BYU's coaching staff, because what they did was they identified some mismatches, specifically Saunders, 15. So he goes 4 of 12 on the game, right? Here's the stat, 13 of 13 from the free throw line. They started isolating him a lot on Iowa State, basically saying, foul him, we dare you. And he went to the line, and he absolutely makes Iowa State pay time and time again. This Saunders, this 15 tonight for BYU. We'll focus more on Iowa State here. I don't know. I thought that's the best Keyshawn Gilbert we've seen in a while, right? Is that accurate? I mean, I specifically on the defense, 8 steals. Okay, I thought he was really effective as far as that goes. I just hate this Wednesday game, double overtime. Now you got to go on the road. It just does. I don't like the way it sets up. Really would have preferred to get this one tonight. I don't even care what happens in Manhattan at that point. Get the double bye. Get to March, right? I'm just not a fan of how it all works out for Iowa State after this. Again, I'm not throwing in the towel. I think BYU's really good. I think that Iowa State can be really good. They've been in the top 10 all season long. Don't forget that. All season long, they've been in the top 10. But the problem is, it's just like we just haven't seen them string them together for a really long time. And most of it's because they haven't been healthy. But they are now. And, this was the opportunity to start to ramp up that momentum as you get to tournament time. And it doesn't happen tonight. All in all, it was a fantastic college basketball game. I don't know how anybody's not entertained by that. You come to these things ultimately. I was actually really happy with the crowd. The crowd gave Iowa State a standing ovation when it was walking to the locker room afterwards. They clearly left it all out there. I also think we have to acknowledge that this is a bad matchup for Iowa State. Again, this is why, if you remember a couple Sundays ago, I told Bloom, I don't like that game. I don't like that game. Every time I watch BYU, it's a bad matchup for what the Cyclones do defensively. What also sucks is I think there's a decent opportunity they're going to play again next week in Kansas City. And I don't. So I think Iowa State, in theory, you hope you get that win on Wednesday. I haven't looked at the brackets. I'm really not that concerned about it at this point. But you would hope, I don't like that on a neutral floor. It's a bad matchup for Iowa State. You could get that Wednesday win and then be done against BYU. I don't think that'll impact your seeding. I think maybe this drops you to the 3. I think that's probably the worst Iowa State will be at this point, is probably a 3 seed. Ultimately, the very worst would be a 4, but I don't think you're going to drop 2 seed lines. Pretty much everybody out of you at a 2 going in tonight. This is a quad 1 loss in double overtime. The metrics, it's really not going to impact you that much, but it's more, just a really disappointing box score in the first half to turn them over as much as you did and still be down almost double digits. You hate seeing that number. Iowa State tonight, again, in 2 overtimes, though, but they forced 29 turnovers tonight. So the defense was awesome, and that's against the top 10. That's against the number 1 offense in the Big 12. Forcing that many turnovers on your home court on senior night, and you still can't find a way to win it. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. So there you go. There is my view on this game from a really, quick reaction to it. Let's get to Kansas City. I don't know. That one sucks. I really wanted it for a guy like Conrad Hawley, all those seniors. They gutted it out. Both of those teams, man, I have so much respect for both of those teams. They were just gassed out there. Who was it, 30 for BYU? Hall. God, he was just bent over, just dying at the end of that thing. Just kept gutting it out. Lipsy was just all over the floor. Thought when Jones got that fadeaway, kind of where he's leaning to the left shot, and he was just completely off in that double OT, it was kind of like, okay, I just don't know if this is going to go. And man, there's just a handful of plays, though. The Jefferson bunny, the end of regulation, bad turnover at the end of first OT. There was a play that happened right in front of me that cost Iowa State 2 points. It was a completely blown call. The Gilbert technical, which I understand why it was called. He completely overreacted to that. I still hate it when refs make that call because it's like, what are we kidding? This isn't high school. All these guys are making, 6 figures out there. Like, we've got to adjust how we officiate college students, in my opinion. I'm sure that a lot of people disagree with that, and that's totally fine. I'll have that conversation. But there's too many opportunities down the stretch that Cyclones just couldn't convert on. And good job about by BYU, hitting those free throws down the stretch. Both of these teams were incredible from the free throw line tonight. Both of them were. BYU 25 of 31. Iowa State was 27 of 31. So can't blame that tonight. You were right there. You outshot them at the line. Barely, but you did. But that's a game that I almost wish it wouldn't have gone into double overtime now that you lost, right, just from a pure conditioning standpoint. But, man, that's a tough one to swallow. I don't know if I'm going to sleep very well tonight. All right. Really enjoyed doing all these shows with you guys. We will be doing them all throughout the tournament. Women's tournament starts in 2 days in Kansas City. Connor will be down there. Complete coverage of all things March coming up here over the next, hopefully, month or so. I also want to throw this out again. Drive home safe. It is getting bad out there. Again, if the one game all year we don't want to go to over 2 overtimes, it's this one. So be safe out there. Don't be idiots. Go slow. And let's get everybody home safely. Bloom and I will have our midweek podcast tomorrow morning. I think we're going to record it at 10. We might go live. We might not. I don't know. We'll decide. So thank you to all of our viewers, all of our listeners who are hanging out with us late here on a Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Iowa State loses in double overtime tonight to BYU 88-85. And give us a strong rating if you like all of our consistent coverage of the Cyclones, will you? Here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.